guys! So if you pay so much attention to me, you might have noticed that I didn't do a reading recap for the month of September. I know, you've all been begging me, Leah, where is it, where is it? Well, I didn't get around to filming it when I got back to Australia, and I decided I would just merge it into my October recap. So here we are. This is the recap of all the books I have read in the months of September and October, in no particular order, of course. So the one manga I read in the past 2 months is Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo. I give this 5 stars. I am obsessed. I've watched part of the show before and I loved it. I thought it was so funny. Decided to pick up the manga. There's extra details in here and I think it's even funnier. I just think it's so sweet, so wholesome and hilarious. So I absolutely love this manga and I cannot wait to continue reading it. I also read Paint It All Red. Paint It All Red by St. Abbey. This was the final book in the Mindfuck series. I gave this book 5 stars, but not specifically because of this book, because of my experience of the Mindfuck series as a whole. I think it's a 5-star experience. None of the books are like masterpieces on their own, but it's something about the way I felt as I was reading them all and as the story progressed that I really enjoyed, and I thought it was great. Some of the stuff is a bit far-fetched and there's like a thing about the ending that I joke around about quite a bit because I just think it's so funny. But I did have a good time with that series. I thought it was going to be like more full-on and more ridiculous than it actually was. I was scared going into it, especially with a title like the Mindfuck series. But honestly, it's not that bad, and I think it is like a dark romance on the side that more people would enjoy, including like contemporary romance fans and people who are like new to the dark romance genre. I think it's like quite digestible, so that's good. Mark Me by Mila Young. I gave this book 3.75 stars overall. It was good. It's a very easy read, very digestible. I like the concept of the story. Just didn't blow my mind, didn't change my life. I would probably reread and I would recommend it to people as a paranormal romance read. I did think it would be more full on, I guess, because I had just read Court of Nightmares when I read this and I thought like maybe it would kind of be like that. Especially because it's 3 guys and 1 girl, I thought it would be quite overwhelming. But honestly, not the case at all. It was not a sausage fest. Very surprising. I thought it was a sausage fest book. It was not. It had plot. It was enjoyable. My main thing I wasn't really a huge fan of was that all the plot progress, like the climax of the story, I think happens in too short a time span towards the end of the book. If I am 20-30 pages from finishing a book and we're just hitting climax, I just know it's going to feel like quite rushed for my preference. So that's what I would say about that. But definitely if you like paranormal romance with wolf shifters, with demon shifters, with griffins, then you'd probably like this. And it has like a mystery element as well, so that was good. And it's not too gory or anything like that, which can definitely be a problem with these sorts of books. Not at all. I really enjoyed this. Very easy to read. The Wicked King by Holly Black, the second book of the Folk of the Air series. Don't hate me. I have decided I am going to DNF the Folk of the Air. I feel like I'm one of the only booktubers who you will ever hear say that. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I did give The Wicked King a 3.5. Honestly, upon further reflection, I might even say lower, but where we finished in The Wicked King was, I guess, slightly interesting, but I thought the ending of the first book was slightly interesting, and then the second book was just no. It was so fucking boring, so boring. I found it so far-fetched. I know it's a YA. I know I'm not going to fully relate to it, but I found it ridiculous that the 17-year-old is able to accomplish half the things she does. I think we are expected to believe that has some sort of smartness. I don't know. I just think she never should have been able to accomplish the things she did. I gave this book a chance because people said it is fantasy with a side of romance. It's like really good on the fantasy, strong political elements. I love strong fantasy and strong political elements. I'm a big epic fantasy with political system fan. Like, that is my thing. I don't mind if I like to have romance in a book, but it doesn't have to be a key thing for me. Unfortunately, my experience with The Folk of the Air is that the romance is the best thing about it, and it barely factors in at all. And it's such a shame because the romance is actually really well done and I found it amazing. That's the only thing I like. Everything else is so boring. The political system's underdeveloped. I just can't get on board. The fairyland concept she has, I like that it's very fantastical and I find it cute, but it's just not enough for me. There's not enough dive into it. So I did give this a 3.5, and I have just within the past 2 days made the decision that I'm going to DNF this series. I really thought I would stick it out, read Queen of Nothing. I've just decided I'm not going to waste my time on a book that's probably going to be a 3-star for me. So sorry if that's your favorite series. I understand why people like it. It's just not for me. Court of Nightmares by K.A. Knight. 3.5, which is surprising because in the first half I thought it was going to be a 5-star. This book is almost 600 pages. This book right here has no right to be almost 600 pages. It is way too long and too repetitive. I pretty much only read books that are 400 plus pages. It being a long book is not a problem. This is not a, oh, it's too many words in it situation for me. It's not that. This is self-published, and I do give indie publish a lot of grace because, you know, like, I understand if there's a typo or like something's not quite right, I'm not going to judge that. This could use professional editing, not because of typos, because it's too repetitive. It just felt, after the midway point, extremely rehashed. We could have done about up to halfway and then skipped forward to the 2 or 3 plot elements that happen in the later half of the book. This could be 200 pages shorter and you would not miss anything. You would miss absolutely nothing. I have read Den of Vipers, obviously, so going into Court of Nightmares, I knew it would be like that, but jacked up on roids because this is 7 guys, not 4 guys. 7 guys is a lot, so I knew it was going to be a sausage fest. I was braced for that. The sex scenes were too gratuitous and too repetitive. So something plot would happen. Great, perfect. The plot, actually really good. Really like it. I love Katie Knight's writing style. But the problem is a plot point would happen. It'd be really interesting and good. They would then have an orgy. Okay, fine. And then we would need an individual scene with each of the guys at least once, sometimes more than that. And then we could finally have another plot point again. There are, if I'm not mistaken, 4 books in this series. I could never. 1 was enough. This was great. I mean, 3.5 just because, as I said, it could have been 200 pages shorter. I was actually over it towards the end, which is a shame. First half, gobbled it up. Absolutely fucking loved it. Second half, where the plot happened, very good. Just too much. Also, there was like, one of the characters, he can turn into a spider. That's fine. Some of the stuff that happens with spider legs, bit too far for me. A little bit too far. So I probably won't continue this series either, but I did like the book and would probably reread it, but skip through like a lot of the sex scenes. It's just a bit much for me. Unhinged by Steph Macker. Again, another book I was scared of because of the title and because of who recommended it to me. I basically have a friend where if she recommends something to me, I like brace myself. I think it's gonna be insane and full on and crazy. Because it was called Unhinged, I was so worried. I actually gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was short, sweet, to the point, was not like a crazy sausage party like I was expecting it to be. I do believe the next book is out now, which might be called Echoes. I am going to read it because I'm very curious to see where it's going to go. The cliffhanger was pretty epic. She's only been with 1 guy. I do believe there will be more than 1 guy. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's good. And I like the situation. And we still need to learn a lot about the characters. And it's not too serious, which I like, and nothing like crazy gory and disgusting has happened, so I like that. Hex and Hexability by Kate Johnson. This surprised me. I wasn't sure when I first started reading. I thought it might be like an average, like a 3-star. I wasn't too sure, but I ended up giving it a 4. I quite enjoyed it. I like the way witches were done. I like the idea of like fun witchy in a Regency period, and the romance on this was so good. I really wasn't expecting it. When we first met our two main characters, Tiffany and Santiago, I really wasn't sure about their chemistry, but I got on board. If you like Bridgerton the show, I haven't read the books yet, so I can't speak to that. But if you liked Bridgerton the show, I think you would like this. It's like a fantasy Bridgerton-esque sort of thing. I thought it was really well done, very fun, very easy to read, and the romance was actually really, really sweet. This is not something I would have picked up on my own, only because I got it in my locked library subscription did I read it, but I'm very glad I did. This was super fun, and I would definitely recommend it. It's like a light sort of fantasy paranormal romance. If you're a fan of contemporary romance but you'd like to get into some more fantasy elements, I think this is a really good starting point. Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. Carissa Broadbent, I love you. I love you, Carissa. She is definitely one of my favorite authors now. I'm so glad that I picked up her work this year. So I've talked a little bit about before how when I first picked up Serpent and the Wings of Night, the first 25% I wasn't too sure, but by the end of the first book and then into the second book, finish Ashes and the Starcursed King, freaking loved it. Finish Six Scorched Roses, and Six Scorched Roses was like, seriously, I think that might be the best novella ever made. You could read it as a standalone, and I definitely recommend you do, because it's fucking amazing. And so of course I want to read all her stuff. I picked up Slaying the Vampire Conqueror because I like what she does with vampires. Didn't realize at first that it was also like in the Crowns of Nyaxia universe, which it is, but not associated to any of the characters. Like, you could read this as a standalone. You don't need to know anything about Crowns of Nyaxia to understand Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. 5 freaking stars. It is amazing. Carissa, I think, in terms of like fantasy female authors right now, I feel like Carissa is absolutely untouchable. I adore her. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Sarah J Maas and all that. Like, Throne of Glass is forever my favorite series. I love Sarah's work, but Carissa just has something special. Her characters feel like, obviously they're fucking vampires, but they feel so human. I feel so connected to her characters. I can struggle a bit with female main characters and like relating to them and thinking that they're like realistic in a way. I think a lot of female main characters, to be like a strong female right now, there's like this really stabby, like invincible, I'm good at everything the first fucking time I try it, or just like sort of an unreasonable achievement level for these women, and it annoys me. I really don't like super stabby FMCs who can never hear out the male characters and like are really, really hard on them. And I don't feel that way at all with any of Carissa's FMCs. They are strong, but they're not infallible, and I really, really enjoy that. And I got that again in Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. Plus, she is so amazing at writing romance. It is unreal. I love her books. I can't wait to read Daughter of Lost Worlds, that series, that other series she's written. Can't wait. I just know it's gonna be amazing. I love Carissa's work. Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Never read this before. Big fan of the musical. Assumed it would be different from the musical. Didn't know it would be that different. It's good. It's nice and short for a classic. It's a gothic classic. I think it's a good like October spooky season Halloween read, and very easy to read as well. I liked that. A lot different to the musical though. So if you're going in there, like, I try and manage my expectations, but I didn't realize how many creative liberties and how much the musical was only inspired by what is in this book. But I liked it. So I think I gave it like a 3.5. I wasn't massively like engaged with it. It can't hold a candle to some of my other favorite classics, but I did like it and I think it's good and I would recommend it. But it never like held me at the throat like some other classics do. So I give it a 3.5 for that reason. This edition especially is absolutely gorgeous. So no matter what I rated it, I would have no regrets about owning this copy. Basically it's written from the point of view of a detective, a police investigator, and he's writing about the things that happened at the opera house, the tragic events of the opera house. And it goes from there. And so it is along the lines of the story of the musical, similar, like same premise, but obviously there's a lot of differences. I do like that even when you finish it, there's mystery. It's like, how was the ghost of the opera able to do a lot of the things he did? Like, what did he have magic? Like, what was it? There is this like fantasy element, this unreal element that is never answered, but it didn't feel like you don't feel sad that your question, at least I didn't feel sad that my questions were unanswered. It's like, it's this unsolved mystery. You're never going to know everything about the Phantom, and I think that makes him even more compelling as a character. I did enjoy it, but it's not like on my top list of favorite classics of all time, and I'm gonna like cry every time I think about it. Manicures and Mayhem by Mila Young. She had this one on offer on her website for free, like a free EPUB version. So I read it before I read any of her other work. I did give it a 3.5. I feel like I'm using that rating a lot. Normally I'm like all 4s and 5s, so to have so many 3.5s, it's like, I didn't realize I'd had so many 3.5s recently, so I'm like, oh. It was fun, it was lighthearted, I just didn't really care for the characters. The story was like, yeah, it was fine, but I know it's a series, I'm not gonna continue the series, I don't have any interest to do so. But it was a good taste of her work, and it was super short, so it's not like I spent a lot of time on this. I didn't have a ton of time to get invested. I'm not big into murder mysteries though, and it's definitely a murder mystery book. So yeah, it might be for someone, just wasn't something that I'm going to think about for the rest of my life. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is a reread, of course. My first time reading this particular beautiful edition, but a reread. Jane Eyre is one of my favorite classics of all time. So, I mean, credit to Phantom where it's due, because when I go from reading Jane Eyre and follow it with Phantom, like, I'm sorry, you're never gonna be able to compete. The way people feel about Pride and Prejudice is the way that I feel about Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre is exceptional. It is the perfect book. I don't care what anyone says. Also really good for like winter / spooky season because of the mystery, and it is gothic. I know this cover's very like, oh my god, springtime, but no, it's quite gothic. Charlotte Bronte, her books stand to time. The way she writes is, I don't even know how to describe it. You are with it every step of the way. I absolutely adore this book. I can't wait to reread it again. I'm gonna get a different copy, like a Penguin Classics copy, to annotate, because I was just beside myself while reading this. I wanted to take like a highlighter and a pen to this book so badly, but I couldn't do it to my beautiful painted edition. So I'm looking forward to doing a reread of this sooner rather than later, because I absolutely adore it. Nothing compares. 5 stars, 10 stars even. I freaking love it. Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton. Way too many like smutty books on this recap for even my liking, and I'm the one who read them. Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton, 4 stars. Really liked it. Would have given it a 5. The only reason I didn't give it a 5 is because I don't like gore. Sorry. And this was quite gory. She's a murderer, but the plot twist in this was insane. I don't think I've ever read another reveal where I've been like, I legitimately did not see that coming. It was so crazy. I really, really liked it. So I haven't read Hunting or Haunting Adeline. I will eventually. My friend told me to read Satan's Affair because it is a prequel. So I read it, loved it. It is like a novella though, so we'll see how I go with like longer works of Hunting and Haunting. I have read Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton, and I liked that. Again, I think that was a 4-star book. But I'm curious to see if I'm going to find Hunting and Haunting too gory. We'll see. But anyway, Satan's Affair, read, 4 stars. Only criticism, too much gore for me. But, you know, it is what it is. Let's just keep going on the smut train, shall we? I finally finished Highest Bidder by Lauren Landish and Willow Winters. I started this before I went to the UK, didn't get a chance to finish it before I left, and I was not going to be hauling this around Europe with me. So I left it where I was. I only had the final, so this is 4 books, and I only had the last one left to read. So when I got home, this was the first thing I picked up, and I finished off the 4th book within this book. At first, when I read the first book in this compilation, I really liked it. I probably would say like 4 stars, but I have 2 criticisms that drop it from like a 4 or 4.5 to 3.5. First of all, I don't think Willow Winters and Lauren Landish know what BDSM is. Like truly, this is the most soft-core fantasy shit ever. I thought, so you read the first one, you're like, okay, like, she's new to BDSM, you know, like, it's probably going to be on the light side. You read the second book and you're like, oh. And you read the third book and you're like, oh. Every one of these 4 books has this pretty much the same plot with a different couple. So there's a guy and he's super duper rich. There's a girl, she is not rich. She's either new to BDSM or has been in a poor BDSM relationship before. Except none of it's really like BDSM. It's like at most dom-sub relationship. The S&M doesn't really come into it too much, at least not in the way, only in like a surface level, I read 50 Shades of Grey way is this BDSM. It's not like really what it is. Anyway, that part aside. So they don't know what BDSM is. And also they're extremely repetitive. So if you've read one, you've read them all. And it's not just that the relationship dynamic is essentially the same every single time. She is always traumatized. He is always traumatized. And he always murders someone for her in this book and then gets away with it scot-free. Every single time. Once, good. Twice, forgivable. 3 times? No. Fool me 1 time, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. Fool me 3 times, fuck the peace sign, load the chopper, let it rain on you. 3.5. I don't know how my friends like hear me talk about books like this and then go, fuck, I'll read it. Little Stranger by Lee Rivers. Again, a recommendation from my very crazy friend. Was very scared. Enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting. 4.75 stars. This one is like definitely super questionable. So check the trigger warnings. Again, Sausage Fest book. It's a smutty book. It's spice. Like, doesn't have much to offer beyond that. I did really like it. I thought the spice was like really well done. Sometimes they're not so well done. And obviously I've read a lot of those sorts of books in the past 2 months. So, you know, you learn the good from the bad a little bit. This was on the good side. The one thing I will say, as a warning to anyone who's thinking of reading Little Stranger, their adopted siblings. The second one I can't really say because it's a spoiler. There are murders in the book. Let's just say that. Maybe the male main character's not entirely there in the head. He's traumatized. So that's my thoughts on Little Stranger. Clearly though, I enjoyed it a lot. I gave it a 4.75. It just wasn't like perfect. I'm not gonna think about it all the time. But I enjoyed it a lot. And I thought it was really good. Like, judge me. Please judge me for that, because that is a like a ridiculous thing to say about this book, but I really thought it was very good. This is Zodiac Academy, The Awakening. I only own the first book in paperback, but I also did read the second book, which is Ruthless Fae. I'm not going to share my ratings for these books. I'm making a whole separate video on my Zodiac Academy reading experiences and my reviews. I plan on reading the whole Solaria universe, which is like a billion books. But I'll just let you know, I read The Awakening and Ruthless Fae. So there you go. Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Very anticipated read for me. I heard so much hype. I wasn't sure what to expect. I really, really, really liked it. It is one of my favorite books I've read this year. I gave it a 5 stars. I thought it's just like everything I like to have in a book, really. I thought it was very, very well done. I know some people have a lot of criticism of it. I don't care. It was like, that book was made for people like me. Let's just say that. It hit all my points. I liked it. I thought it was fantastic. I can't wait for the trad publish. I've already pre-ordered my paperback of the trad publish. Very, very excited. I will probably do a reread when that comes. Super, super duper excited. For me, it was worth the hype. 5 stars, but definitely, you know what, I would even say don't read anyone else's opinion on it, or don't seek out other people's opinion on it. If you have like a slight interest in the book, just give it a go. Read the first 25% and see what you think. If it's not for you after the first 25%, then you're probably not gonna like it. I would definitely recommend reading it, especially if you're in the US. I believe it is still on Kindle Unlimited. It's not in Australia, so sorry, but if you can get it on KU, I would definitely recommend just giving it a try and seeing how you go, because I thought it was really, really good. If you're a fan of like Serpent and the Wings, like Crowns of Nyaxia, or you're a fan of like Akatar and stuff like that, I think you'll really like Quicksilver. That's the sort of, this book was like designed for us. Mercilessly Bred by Natalie Knight. This is exactly what it sounds like. No, it's not too bad. It's not as much of a sausage fest. I don't have a better word, I'm sorry. Like, that's the only non-explicit way I know how to say. There wasn't as much smut and spice in it as I thought there was going to be based on the title. But the title does sort of lay out what the book is about. It is a Beauty and the Beast dark retelling. Beauty and the Beast retelling anything, I will read it, okay? So like, made for me. Indie published, so there are some like typographical errors and stuff like that. I don't think this is made to be a mind-blowing piece of literature, okay? It's fun. It's a dark Beauty and the Beast retelling. He basically needs to get someone pregnant ASAP Rocky. And this, like, trafficked woman stumbles into his home seeking refuge. That's it. Not any more deep or meaningful than that. 4 stars. Like, I suspended my disbelief of it. Like, some of the things that happen, a woman who had been recently SCX trafficked probably would not be reacting the way she is, but I suspend my disbelief. I go into this knowing it's gonna be like a spicy, silly, dark romance book. That's what it was. That's what I got. I got what I expected. I liked it. It was 4 stars. Finally, Hera by Jennifer Saint. This was a 4.5 for me. I really wasn't sure what to expect because I've heard mixed things about Jennifer Saint's book. This is the signed Waterstones edition. I did miss the signing event, but Jennifer Saint came to the Lincoln Waterstones, and obviously there was leftover signed stock, so I got this one from Lincoln Waterstones. Hera is like not the most interesting goddess to me. There are other goddesses I would read about before I would read about Hera. However, I'm very glad I picked this up. I thought the way Jennifer did it was very well done. You can tell that I don't know if she's like a professor or anything. Okay, so she's a visiting research fellow in the classics department. She read classical studies at King's College London. Okay, and she's the visiting fellow there. I can tell she has a deep love for the classics, and I like the way she takes different myths of Hera, different stories, different interpretations, and like merges them into something of her own. I thought it was very well done. I connected with Hera more than I expected, and the ending, oh my gosh, it made me tear up. It was, oh my god, it was like beautiful. It was beautiful. Not what I was expecting, but as it was happening, oh my God, I get emotional just thinking about it. As it was happening, I was like, speechless. I really, really liked this. I have a very high threshold for mythological fiction and what I will enjoy from mythological fiction, because for the first mythological fiction book I really read as an adult was Circe by Madeline Miller. That book to me was perfection. This begins to hold a candle to that, hence why it's a 4.5. I was so apprehensive because I didn't think anything could make me feel close to the way Circe and then subsequently A Song of Achilles made me feel. But the ending of Hera I found just extremely powerful. The things she learns over time and the way she grows into herself and learns what she wants and learns what's important to her, I did find just really incredible. Hera's not my favorite fucking goddess. There's no question about it. There were times in this book where I was like, I could never do the things that Hera does. Like, I could never treat people the way she does. I could never see the world the way she does. The way Jennifer portrayed her and the way Jennifer showed her growth and made you like empathize with her, not as like the way you would a human woman, the way a human woman would behave, but her experience as a goddess and like how what was rightfully hers was like taken from her by her brothers, and the like expectations Zeus put on them and all that. Just really, really good. I would highly recommend it. I'm definitely looking forward to reading more of Jennifer's work in the future, because this set a high bar for me for her work. So I'm very keen. I definitely want to read Ariadne. So yeah, we'll see. I'm looking forward to more from her. So I think that was 19 books, which is pretty good for 2 months. 10, it's almost 10 books a month, so good, not great. I would have liked to do more, but I definitely struggled a lot more in the month of October than I was expecting, but you know, it's just the way things go. I am certainly looking forward to more exciting reads coming up in November and beyond, so I hope you'll stay tuned, check in with my reading vlogs to catch up with me and read together, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in another video. Bye.